Hi everyone, in 2023, CJ Stroud had one of the greatest rookie seasons ever. We're talking 4,108 yards, 23 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions, and a 100.8 passer rating, the third best by a rookie in NFL history. He started his career with 191 straight passes without an interception, an NFL record. Then he became the youngest starting quarterback to ever win a playoff game. Everyone called him the next franchise savior, and I think CJ may have felt a little bit too good about himself because he went viral for this moment with Caleb Williams. Learn from those mistakes, and everything that you got, bro, is in you already, bro. You're going to be a hell of a player in this league. Yep. All right, boy. Appreciate it, for sure. And I really think his rookie year success got to his head. I brought this to everyone's attention on X when CJ Stroud ranked his top 5 QBs and put himself ahead of Josh Allen and Dak Prescott following his rookie year. But here's the thing. In his first 19 games, Stroud had 26 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions. From Week 3 of 2024 onwards, he's thrown 37 touchdowns and 21 interceptions in 32 games. That's a completely different quarterback. According to ESPN, CJ went from 12th in QBR as a rookie to 26th in 2024, from 9th in fantasy points per game to dead last at 28th. The guy who never turned the ball over suddenly can't stop giving it away. Now, not all of this is CJ Stroud's fault. In 2024, he faced pressure on an NFL-high 29.3% of his dropbacks, the highest in the entire league. He got sacked 54 times, second most in the NFL behind only Caleb Williams, which is kind of ironic because he told Caleb Williams this. Keep going. Stop taking those hits. Kevin Clark blamed Bobby Slowik for his protection schemes and said this was the culprit of CJ Stroud struggling. So how would the Texans respond during the offseason? Well, they pretty much went the exact opposite direction. They traded away their best offensive lineman. Laremy Tunsil, a 5-time Pro Bowl left tackle, was shipped to Washington. The guy protecting Stroud's blindside was gone. There were reports that DeMeco Ryans wanted a culture reset because when Stroud got sacked, his linemen weren't rushing to help him up. When he got hit late, there was no retaliation. And the Texans would already regret this after Week 1 of this season against the Rams. Look, to give CJ Stroud some grace, aside from his offensive line, he's had the worst luck when it's come to his teammates getting injured. Going back to last year, Stefon Diggs tore his ACL in Week 8. Ironically, Stefon Diggs is a huge reason why his season ended this year. But back when they were teammates, Diggs is out in 2024 in Week 8, gone for the season. Nico Collins, who was on pace to break the NFL receiving record, missed 5 games with a hamstring injury. Then this past year, he got a concussion in the playoff game against the Steelers and was ruled out for the Patriots game. So Stroud's number 1 target is unavailable for the biggest game of the year. Tank Dell, a player that CJ Stroud advocated that the Texans draft and who turned out to be really good for the Texans, had an incredible reception against the Kansas City Chiefs. Then a teammate collided with his knee, he dislocates his kneecap, tears his ACL, MCL, and LCL. Multiple surgeries and missed this past year too. At different points in 2024, Stroud was throwing to John Mechie, Xavier Hutchinson, and Robert Woods, who combined for just 14 catches, 146 yards, and 0 touchdowns. With Diggs, the Texans went 6-2, but without him, they went 3-5. So you can make a very reasonable argument for the past 2 years that CJ Stroud had some very bad injury luck. But then, you take a look at his performance in the playoffs, and you really can't make an excuse for the way he's played because in the playoffs this year, CJ Stroud didn't need to be a hero. He didn't need to be Patrick Mahomes in the 2022 playoffs, when Mahomes was able to somehow drive the Kansas City Chiefs into field goal range, force overtime against the Buffalo Bills, and then throw a touchdown to advance. He didn't need to do anything like that. He just needed to manage the game in a way where his defense could suffocate Drake Maye and win the football game for the Texans. And the handicap that Stroud was given is crazy. If you look at his wildcard performance against the Pittsburgh Steelers, Stroud fumbled 5 times. He lost 2 of them, and he threw an interception, which brings us to what we saw on Sunday. Stroud became only the 4th quarterback in NFL history to throw 4 interceptions in the first half of a playoff game. According to Yahoo Sports, his performance ranked 418th out of 429 quarterback playoff performances since 2007. He became the first player in NFL history to have a postseason with 5 interceptions and 5 fumbles in just 2 games. Now let me show you exactly how bad it got on Sunday. I personally don't think that CJ Stroud will ever properly recover from this performance. In what would eventually become a 28-16 loss to potential league MVP Drake Maye and the New England Patriots, CJ Stroud single-handedly lost the Houston Texans this game. He completed only 20 of 47 pass attempts for 212 yards, 1 touchdown, and 4 interceptions, which all happened to come in the first half alone. Stroud finished this game with a ridiculously low 28 passer rating, meaning that if he were to literally spike the ball into the ground every play for the entire game, he would have still had a higher passer rating than he did on Sunday. That's completely embarrassing, but somehow it still gets worse than that. On Sunday, Stroud became the first player in 25 years to complete under 43% of his passes and throw 4 or more interceptions in a playoff game. The last guy to do that was Kerry Collins in Super Bowl 25, where he just so happened to face arguably the greatest defense in NFL history. CJ Stroud doesn't have that excuse. In fact, New England's defense wasn't even the best defensive unit on the field in this game. The 2025 Houston Texans genuinely had an all-time defense, and CJ Stroud still couldn't win with them. This year, the Houston Texans allowed the least amount of yards per game at 277.2. For context, New England's defense sat at 8th least with 295.2 and allowed the second fewest points per game this season at 17.4, 1 spot behind the Super Bowl favorite Seattle Seahawks and 2 spots ahead of New England. This defense was historic, and it's not like they were just a great regular season defense and choked in the playoffs either. In their 2 playoff games this year, Houston's defense allowed only 13.5 points per game, 211.5 yards per game, 3.5 yards per play, and allowed only 5 of their opponents' 28 third down conversion attempts. That is absolutely ridiculous. They shut down Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, and despite what the scoreboard says, they did the same to Drake Maye and the Patriots, with New England having a negative expected points added per play in every single aspect of the game on Sunday. Meanwhile, CJ Stroud was becoming the first player in NFL history to have a postseason with 5 interceptions and 5 fumbles. In 2 games, by the way. The fact that Houston's defense can play this well and still not win football games is a huge problem, and I think that this needs to be addressed within the Houston Texans front office this offseason. CJ Stroud has been chasing his rookie success for the last 2 years. He's not been the same player. We've not seen the development from him. There's a reason for that, and it has to be addressed. Now, just in case you're wondering if I'm cherry-picking all of this for some reason, and that his performance on Sunday couldn't have been that bad, I'm going to show you a few plays that prove my point, and show you exactly why CJ Stroud is not the answer for the Houston Texans, starting with this play from late in the first quarter. At this point, the game was still normal. It was a simple back and forth between 2 great football teams with 2 great defenses. And Houston found themselves down by 4 points early after a touchdown from Pop Douglas that gave New England the early lead. The Texans were in a really good position on this drive, finding themselves with a fresh set of downs in field goal range at the New England 36-yard line. This early into the game, especially in the playoffs, getting any kind of points is huge. So all CJ Stroud and the Houston offense had to do is not anything stupid and not turn the ball over. The play sets up like this. New England comes out in a 4-2-3-1 formation, 4 defensive linemen on the line of scrimmage, 2 linebackers in the box, and 5 defensive backs. It's nothing crazy, but it does tell me that New England is expecting pass based on what they've seen thus far. Meanwhile, Houston is lined up in a tight shotgun formation with 11 personnel, meaning that there is 1 running back and 1 tight end on the field. 2 receivers line up on the strong side of the field to CJ Stroud's left, and 1 receiver is lined up on the short side of the field to Stroud's right. So naturally, New England uses the 3 cornerbacks they trotted onto the field to man up each receiver pre-snap. They could be in man, they could be in zone. All we know at this point is that New England is matching their personnel with Houston's. Now, once Stroud calls for the snap, we see some things on both sides of the ball that I want to point out. There are 2 routes from the Texans on this play that I want you to see, and those are the 2 routes from the bunched-up receivers on the strong side. Out of the slot, Christian Kirk seems to be running a 3-yard curl, but then turns around and breaks up the field, which is a route that would be lethal against man coverage. On top of that, to his left, Jaden Higgins runs a post-corner route, faking inside before breaking back towards the sideline. Both of these routes combined show me that Houston thought that New England would come out in man, which is a fair assumption considering the fact that New England was in the top 10 in man coverage rate this year. However, they were completely wrong. New England doesn't run any fancy stunts on this play. They simply rush 4 and then drop into zone coverage with the slot corner Marcus Jones being the main player I want you to focus on. As soon as the ball is snapped, he immediately drops down into his zone without ever taking his eyes off of Stroud in the backfield. Then, once he sees that no routes are breaking into his zone, he takes a look to his right where he sees Christian Kirk starting to break up the field. However, since his eyes were on Stroud for so long, he was a few steps behind, leaving Christian Kirk right in the middle of a huge gap for an early first down. Pressure got to Stroud pretty easy in the backfield, but despite that, he saw the space that Kirk had, and he let the ball fly. Now, I don't know if he was overcompensating for a trailing Marcus Jones on this play if he simply didn't read that this play was zone coverage, or if he just completely misfired, because all 3 of those options are equally as likely. But Stroud throws an absolute moonball 5 yards past where this ball should have gone, and right into the hands of Carlton Davis for Stroud's first pick of the game, ending a promising drive with nothing to show for it on the scoreboard. The next play I'm going to show you guys today is maybe the worst play I've seen a quarterback make all season. Yeah, it's that bad. After somehow managing to take their first lead of the game, Stroud and the Texans were looking to start another successful drive to take a 2-possession lead before halftime. On 1st and 10 at their own 25-yard line, this is as simple as it gets. Run the stuff you know how to run, and if it doesn't work, protect the ball and try again. New England came out on this play with 5 linemen down low showing pressure. But with the play call that Houston had cooked up, it shouldn't have mattered. Once the ball snapped, CJ Stroud would run a play action to his right with Nick Chubb, sending the defensive line that way before pulling back, turning around and running a boot to his left with a pulling Dalton Schultz as his lead blocker. 4 of the 5 Patriots defensive linemen on this play are turned towards Chubb, but the only one who wasn't fooled was the furthest from the play, Kayvon Casson. However, with Schultz pulling, he should have an easy block on Casson, creating a perfect pocket for Stroud to sit back and find an open man with ease. That doesn't happen, though. While pulling, Schultz trips over his own left tackle, freeing up a wide open lane for Casson to rush Stroud in the backfield. The play broke, and now there's a free rusher. So CJ Stroud should either throw the ball away before he gets hit, or simply take the sack if he can't get the ball away in time to prevent anything drastic from happening. Well, CJ Stroud does none of those things, and somehow he did the worst possible thing that he could have done on this play. Check this out. Casson got to him quick, which meant he should have taken the sack. But instead, he still tries to get this ball to a receiver, getting hit in the process of literally throwing a football off of his back foot, resulting in a ball that just floats in the air for a few seconds and ends up in the arms of Marcus Jones, who ends up taking this pick to the house, giving New England the lead back, and completely flipping this game upside down. What in the world was CJ Stroud thinking here? The last play here is the play that made me realize that this game was completely over. With less than 2 minutes left to go and the Texans down 1, they found themselves in enemy territory yet again in another 1st and 10 situation. And surely CJ Stroud wouldn't mess this up again, right? Well, the ball gets snapped. Houston runs another play-action boot to Stroud's left, but this time the free rusher is lagging way behind, so CJ has some time to work. This man somehow did the opposite of what he was supposed to do yet again. Stroud finally had a play where there wasn't immediate pressure in his face, so naturally he stares down his first read. And despite Carlton Davis being attached to him at the hip, Stroud still tries to fit this ball into Xavier Hutchinson on the sideline. But of course, Davis read it like a book because Stroud's eyes didn't leave Hutchinson for a moment. And this ball gets picked for what was now Stroud's 4th pick of the first half, all but securing this inevitable win for New England. It's really unfortunate because I believe this football team was good enough to make it to the Super Bowl. Whether you want to blame the offensive coordinator for not putting CJ Stroud in better situations where he wouldn't be facing as much pressure, or you want to place the blame squarely on CJ Stroud for some of the decisions that he made, that's really up to you. But regardless, next year is the last season of CJ Stroud's rookie contract. And yeah, I'm sure Houston will accept Stroud's 5th-year option in the offseason, but that shouldn't guarantee him the starting spot. Over these last 2 years, CJ Stroud has done nothing but regress since his historic rookie season. And if that trend continues into 2027, I wouldn't be surprised if he was playing football somewhere else in 2028. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching.